I think there's a temptation that some people have to think that this is a sport only really for like big macho guys. That I want to disabuse your audience of that notion, right? I myself got into sword fighting because I like reading books. Some of my earliest memories are reading fantasy stories where you read about different kinds of swords and things, and you see, the hero always has a sword and it's so cool, and I was really into that. I am the, principal instructor of the Esprit de Combat HEMA Club. HEMA stands for Historical European Martial Arts. Essentially, we are kind of a fencing club, similar to what you might imagine when you see, for example, Olympic fencing. But unlike Olympic fencing, we specialize in doing fencing with historical weapons that you can see in the background behind me, for example. What we try to do is, or at least what I try to do, is to teach people how to fence with swords in the way that historically people fenced with swords. So if you're thinking about the past, if you're thinking about, for example, the medieval era, when people fought with long swords and shields and things like that, essentially it's a combat martial art that takes the historical systems of sword fighting and then applies them in a context where you can actually spar someone, fight someone safely. In terms of our rules, we try to, as much as possible, simulate real historical, more or less dueling conditions. We do sometimes have group fights where multiple people are fighting each other. Those are a lot more chaotic. But normally it's a one-on-one kind of confrontation, and even though I'm wearing a lot of equipment right now, the assumption is that the person is unarmored. This equipment is just basically for your own safety. But the idea is that we want to simulate a real fight, so we have different, different types of attacks that you can do. You can do cuts, you can do thrusts. The goal is to try and hit someone in a way that is martially effective. So not just a light tap, but a real hit, a cut that would effectively cut them in real life. Our club is inclusive. We have all kinds of people, that can join, men and women. It doesn't matter if you're strong, it doesn't matter if you're weak. As long as you're interested, I think, if you have an interest in history, if you have an interest in swords, this is the kind of place for you, because you can find other people who are like you, who talk about this kind of stuff, and you can take, like a practical, hands-on approach to your interest in history, right? If you're interested in history, I think this is something that you would get a lot of value out of.